At 10:23 local time in the Strait of Hormuz, 14 nautical miles northwest of Bandar Abbas, the USS Monterey, a Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser assigned to Carrier Strike Group 7, was running a standard transit at 18 knots. Her SPY-1A phaser radar swept the morning sky in every direction, painting contacts across a 200-mile envelope. The air hung thick with Gulf humidity. On the bridge, the officer of the deck monitored 3 merchant vessels threading the separation scheme to the north. The threat board was quiet. In the Combat Information Center below, the Tactical Action Officer had just cleared his second cup of coffee. What nobody aboard the Monterey knew was that an Iranian targeting cell embedded inside the IRGC Navy's Coastal Defense Command at Bandar Abbas had been watching her for 6 straight hours. Passive emissions tracking. Building a fire control solution from her own radar transmissions, they had her speed, her heading, her exact position, and they had already decided she was the USS Abraham Lincoln. They were wrong, and that single mistake would cost Iran half its navy by sunset. To understand why Iranian targeting cells were operating in a full wartime posture that morning, you have to go back 72 hours. Coalition airstrikes had already dismantled 3 IRGC naval installations along the Gulf Coast. Tomahawk cruise missiles had neutralized the fast attack boat pens at Keshem Island. F/A-18SS from the Lincoln's air wing had put GBU-31 JDAMS through the submarine pier at Chabahar. In a single operational day, Iranian Naval Command had lost 2 of its 3 forward headquarters. What remained of the IRGC Navy was dispersed, degraded, and running under strict emissions control. Every decision shaped by the reality that 3 days of systematic strikes had left almost nothing operational. But the order that came down the night before had not been about survival, it had been about revenge. Supreme National Security Council authorization, transmitted through an encrypted relay at Parchain, reached the coastal missile battery at Cape Mobarak at 0340 local time. The message was 2 lines: target the American carrier, destroy it before dawn. The battery commander acknowledged and spent the next 6 hours doing exactly what his training required, building a fire control solution on the largest radar return in the strait. The Monterey was not a carrier. She displaced 9,600 tons against the Lincoln's 100,000. Her radar cross-section was a fraction of what the battery's passive sensors should have resolved. But the operator running the track had been awake for 31 consecutive hours, working degraded equipment on backup power, since coalition strikes had knocked out the primary generator 3 nights prior. He saw a large American warship in the correct bearing window at the correct time of morning. He classified it as a carrier. His supervisor, equally exhausted, equally pressured, confirmed the classification without once questioning the displacement data that didn't match. That confirmation would become the most expensive error in the history of the Iranian Navy. At 10:23, the Cape Mobarak battery went fully active. Fire control radar, continuous track. The emission lit up every electronic warfare receiver within 80 nautical miles simultaneously. On the Monterey, the EW operator in CIC had a 1.4 second delay between detection and verbal report. He used 0.9 of them. Vampire, vampire, vampire. Fire control radar bearing 095. Classification, C802 battery, Cape Mobarak. The Tactical Action Officer was already reaching for weapons release authority before the last word landed. 12 years of training for exactly this geometry. Shore-based anti-ship battery. Known position, active track, 14 nautical miles. The engagement window before a C-802 left the rail was measured in seconds, not minutes. But what happened next was not what the TAO expected. The Monterey was not alone in that strait. 14 nautical miles to the southeast, running dark in a strict emissions-controlled posture, the guided missile destroyer USS Nitsa had been passively tracking the Cape Mobarak battery for 40 minutes. Her EW suite had detected intermittent search radar pulses 2 hours earlier. Her TAO had already built a targeting solution, waiting for the exact moment the battery transitioned to fire control mode. Because a battery in search mode is a threat, a battery in fire control mode is a target. The moment Cape Mobarak went active, the Nitsa's TAO had his shot. 2 AGM-88 Harm anti-radiation missiles left the pylon stations of a pair of EA-18G Growlers, holding a racetrack pattern at 22,000 feet. Those crews had been listening to the battery's electronic signature for 90 minutes. The moment it transmitted at full power, both pilots already had their fingers on the release. The Harms accelerated through Mach 2.5 on bearing 095. flight time to target, 38 seconds. On the Cape Mobarak battery, the fire control solution locked at 10:24. The battery commander gave the order. 4 C-802 anti-ship missiles left their launchers in a 2-second ripple, dropping to wave-top altitude and accelerating south-southwest. Tracking what the operator's screen told him was a 100,000-ton American aircraft carrier. What they were actually tracking was a 9,600-ton cruiser, whose Aegis combat system had already classified all 4 inbound missiles, assigned engagement sequences, and begun queuing SM-2 intercepts before the Iranian commander finished his launch order. The Monterey heeled hard to starboard at flank speed, presenting her stern to complicate the C-802 Seeker's terminal approach. Chaff rockets rippled off the launchers, broadcasting radar returns larger than the ship in every direction. The SPG-62 fire control illuminators slewed to the first inbound bearing and began time-sharing across all 4 tracks. The first SM-2 left the vertical launch system at 10:24. Then the second. 2 more followed, 4 seconds apart. At 10:25, both harms arrived at Cape Mobarak simultaneously. The battery's radar antenna was destroyed in a column of smoke and superheated debris. Without the guidance signal, the 4 C-802s, already airborne, transitioned to onboard seekers. Active radar. Searching. 3 missiles detonated inside the Monterey's chaff bloom, 400 meters off the port quarter. The 4th broke through, reacquired a return, and continued inbound. The Phalanx CYWS picked it up at 1,800 meters. The white dome rotated. The 20mm Gatling spun to 4,500 rounds per minute. The missile came apart at 900 meters, close enough that fragments clattered against the hull like gravel thrown at a window. No penetrations, no casualties. The Monterey was intact, but the situation was about to get dramatically worse. What neither the Monterey nor the Nizza had been told, what was still moving through 5th Fleet intelligence channels when the first missiles launched, was that Cape Mobarak had never been the only order transmitted from Parchine the previous night. The same authorization that directed the coastal battery to strike the carrier had also activated 2 IRGC fast attack boat squadrons operating from dispersal points along the northern shore of the strait. 12 Peykaap-class fast attack craft, each capable of 50 knots, each armed with C-704 anti-ship missiles, each rigged for coordinated swarm tactics, had been sitting cold in shallow coastal inlets for 72 hours. Engines off, radar off, waiting. They were now running south at maximum speed in 2 groups of 6, spread across a 4-mile front, using the morning coastal haze as concealment. The Monterey's SPY-1A picked them up at 10:27. 12 surface contacts bearing 040, closing at 50 knots. Range, 22 miles. The TAO processed the geometry in seconds. 12 fast attack craft in a coordinated swarm from the northeast. SM-2 magazines already depleted from the C-802 engagement. CIWS still cycling from the terminal intercept. And somewhere behind those boats, almost certainly a follow-on missile salvo building a passive solution right now. Waiting for the moment every weapon system aboard the Monterey was pointed north. He had seen this playbook before. He keyed the tactical net. The Nizza was already maneuvering to flank. 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters launched from both ships simultaneously, banking northeast with Hellfire missiles on the rails. The Monterey's 5-inch gun trained to bearing 040 and opened fire at 18 miles. Maximum effective range, variable time fuses, 70-pound shells walking across the lead boat's approach corridor. The lead Peykaap took a fragment burst at 2,500 meters. The first Hellfire struck its engine compartment, and the vessel lifted clear of the water before breaking apart. The helicopter banked toward the second contact, but 12 boats attacking from 2 directions was not a problem. 1 cruiser and 1 destroyer solved cleanly. The second group of 6 had split south, swinging wide around the engagement to attack from the southwest. The exact bearing the Monterey had turned away from during the C-802 engagement. 3 boats were now inside 8 miles on the southwest, bearing before the surface radar operator called them. Then radar operator saw something alarming. At 10:31, the Monterey's EW operator broke across the tactical frequency with a call that silenced the entire CIC. 2 additional fire control emissions, bearing 155 and 162. Classification: Noor Battery, Keshem, Island, Secondary Site. Multiple missiles, inbound. The Noor, Iran's domestically developed C-802 variant with enhanced guidance, had been deployed to harden secondary sites deliberately kept cold until primary batteries drew fire and committed the American defense. These batteries had been watching the engagement develop for 8 straight minutes. They had waited until both ships' weapon systems were fully committed to the boat threat from the north. Now they fired 6 Noor anti-ship missiles, 3 from each bearing, dropped to 5 meters above the waterline and accelerated south. Seekers scanning. Range at launch, 31 miles. Time to impact, under 4 minutes. The TAO had a decision that admitted no clean solution. 6 inbound missiles from the south and southeast. 3 fast attack boats inside 8 miles from the southwest. SM-2 magazines at 60%. 1 ship. 3 simultaneous threat axes. No version of this picture resolved without accepting risk somewhere. He accepted it on the boats. He committed the 5-inch gun and both .50 caliber mounts to the southwest bearing and threw everything else at the Noors. 5 SM-2s left the VLS in rapid succession, illuminators slewing south, time sharing between 6 tracks. Chaff rippled off the launchers. The Monterey heeled hard to port, crossing her own wake, presenting the smallest possible radar profile to the inbound seekers. 14 miles southeast, the Nitze ran the same calculation. 4 SM-2s fired south. Her helicopter broke off the boat engagement and repositioned to screen the southern arm. What neither TAO had been told, what was sitting in a flash message still being decoded at Al Udeid, was that a third asset had been positioned for exactly this moment. The USS Lake Champlain, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, assigned as the strike group's dedicated ballistic missile defense ship, had been holding a silent emissions-controlled posture 40 miles west-southwest of the strait since 200 hours. Her SPY-1A had been passively building tracks on every Iranian fire control emission since the battle began, running parallel engagement solutions in total silence, saying nothing, waiting. At 10:32, 4 seconds after the Keshem batteries fired, the Lake Champlain's TAO pushed his full assessment onto the tactical net, firing solutions on both sites. 2 AGM-88 harms already queued aboard a Growler that had silently repositioned from its original orbit the moment Cape Mobarak engaged. He was waiting for weapons release authority. He received it at 10:33. The Growler rolled in from due west, a bearing the Keshem operators had not been watching. Both harms impacted within 11 seconds of each other. Emissions from bearing 155 ceased immediately. The 3 Noors already airborne from that site continued inbound on onboard seekers alone. Emissions from bearing 162 degraded, but did not stop. Fragmentation damage, intermittent transmission, enough to guide 3 missiles already in terminal phase. 3 Noors on degraded guidance, 3 SM-2s climbing to intercept. The Monterey heeling hard through a 40-degree turn with chaff blooming across the water in every direction. The first SM-2 connected at 11 miles. The second lost illumination for 4 seconds during the Monterey's maneuver. Flew blind through 600 meters, reacquired, and destroyed the second Noor at 7 miles. The third Noor drifted 200 meters left of centerline on degraded guidance and detonated in the chaff cloud off the port bow. The concussion shuddered through the hull. A fragment punched through the signal bridge windscreen and embedded in a radar console. 2 sailors received treatment. Neither left their station. On the southwest bearing, the 3 remaining Peykaap boats had closed to 4 miles before the CYWS transitioned to surface mode. The lead vessel absorbed a 5-inch round through its forward hull at 3,800 meters and began losing speed. The Nitz's Seahawk neutralized the second with a direct Hellfire strike. The third reversed course the moment the formation collapsed and ran north at flank speed. At 10:39, the tactical net went quiet for the first time in 16 minutes. The Monterey had absorbed a coordinated 3-axis, multi-system Iranian naval strike, and answered with 2 sailors treated for minor shrapnel and a hole in a radar console. The real accounting, however, had not yet begun. 5th Fleet's response was not measured in hours. It was measured in minutes. The Lincoln Strike Planning Cell had been building a target package since 10:24. By 10:41, it was complete. At 10:43, the first Tomahawk left the Nitz's VLS. The Lake Champlain fired next. 11 cruise missiles in total, threading coastal radar gaps at 50 feet above the waterline on pre-validated routes. Heading north toward what remained of the IRGC Navy's operational infrastructure along the Gulf Coast. At 10:51, the Lincoln's flight deck came alive. 14FA 18E and FA 18F, Super Hornets from VFA 41 and VFA 14 launched in a 9-minute sequence, loaded with GBU 31 JDAMs and GBU 39 small diameter bombs. An EA-18 G Growler from VAQ 133 launched behind them, its ALQ 249 jammer transmitting before it cleared the bow. An E-2D Advanced Hawkeye climbed to altitude to quarterback the package. The target list was specific: fast attack boat dispersal sites at 3 coastal inlets, the surviving Noor battery at Peykaap, the fuel and ammunition depot at Bandar Lincoln, and the IRGC Navy's Gulf Operations Coordination Center at Bandar Abbas, the building where, 8 hours earlier, one exhausted targeting officer had misidentified a cruiser as a carrier and transmitted the order that started everything. The Tomahawk struck first. Bandar Abbas took 3 hits in 90 seconds. Bandar Lincoln erupted in a fireball visible 110 miles away, black smoke climbing 8,000 feet into the Gulf sky. Super Hornets pushed north behind the strike wave, arriving over targets already burning. Growlers jammed what remained of Iran's coastal defenses. After days of coalition strikes, resistance was nearly gone. It was cleanup. By 1340, local battle damage confirmed the IRGC Navy in the Strait of Hormuz had been crippled. Cape Mobarak destroyed. Qeshm sites destroyed. Bandar Lincoln destroyed. Fast attack bases neutralized. Bandar Abbas Coordination Center destroyed. 11 Peykaap boats sunk, disabled, or abandoned. Monterey sailed south at 1600, damaged but operational. 2 wounded sailors returned before the fight ended. Iran's mistake was not the swarm, it was striking the wrong target. One misidentification sent their entire operation against a warship built to survive and retaliate with overwhelming force. Multi-axis attacks are designed to overwhelm, confuse, and split defenses in seconds, but they only work if the first strike lands cleanly. Once the attack failed, the initiative was gone. Aegis systems tracked every threat, harms were airborne before enemy radar fully activated, and support assets were already in position before Iran committed. Every layer of defense functioned exactly as planned. By sunset, Iran's Gulf fleet burned, and Lincoln prepared its next launch. If you enjoyed this video, check out one of our other breakdowns on the war with Iran. See you next time.